my name is Muhammad Ali, and I'm going to start by telling you the story of my life about how I became a professional boxer. And I'm going to start when I was younger and how I kind of got into it. So I grew up in a very segregated part of the South where, since I was African American, they kind of segregated me from everyone else. And I lived in a really tough neighborhood, and my family didn't have a lot of money. My dad painted for a living, so he never really sold anything. And my mom was a worker for the richer, white folk. And so one day when I was 12 years old, we never really had a lot of money, so my parents got me this brand new red cherry bike. It meant a lot to me because my parents never really got me anything, and I appreciated everything that I had since I never really had much. And I was riding my bike one day down the street to our local grocery store, and I parked my bike, and this kid named Corey Baker from our school, who's a giant you-know-what, took my bike, and he would not give it back to me, and he told me that if I tried to get it back, he would beat me up. So what I did was I called the police, and I talked to a man named Joe Martin. And Joe Martin worked at a local boxing place downtown, and I had no idea. And Corey Baker was a boxer too. That's why he was so intimidating to everyone, because he could fight. And I hated that feeling of being defenseless and not being able to stick up for myself. So when he took my stuff and I couldn't do anything about it, I hated that feeling. And so when I was on the phone with him, the cop Joe Martin, I talked to him about how I really want to beat this kid up, and he was like, well, you can't beat the kid up if you don't know how to fight. And so I was like, okay, teach me how to fight. And he was like, come down, so I did. And I actually ended up working with him for a year before I even said anything to Corey Baker. And I worked with him for a year, and I ended up falling in love with boxing because it took out all this anger that I didn't even know that I had. And so after a year of training, and I actually felt confident about my boxing, I went around school and I told everyone that I could beat up Corey Baker in a ring, anytime, any place. And I made sure that it spread to him, directly to him. And he came up to me, and he was trying to be all tough and everything. And he told me to meet him in the boxing ring at 3 o'clock, same ring that I've been practicing in. So I was like, okay. And so in the first round, I gave him a black eye, a bloody nose, and he was too scared to fight for the second round. He just gave up. And so my school kind of saw me as a hero, I guess, because I actually was able to stick up for myself, because nobody ever had the guts to do that to him. And ever since that day, I've just been really into boxing because it made me feel good and kind of made me feel more confident about myself. And by in the 1960s, that's when my career started taking off, because I dedicated everything to boxing, and I won my first Golden Gloves lightweight championship, and I also joined the Young Olympic team. And after that, I wanted my goals to be higher because I dedicated everything to boxing, and I wanted to become an Olympic gold medalist, and I wanted to become a heavyweight champion and keep that title for a really long time. And so in 1962, I think, I got offered to be in the Olympics, which I took gold in, of course, because I'm Muhammad Ali. And then the guy who was already the title of the heavyweight championship, he knew that I was undefeated for a really long time. I've never been beat at all since I started my career. And so he called me and said, I want to match you for my title because I want to show everyone that I can beat you. And so we I think it was 67, I think, that's when we fought. And the first round, we went up to 7 rounds, and by the 8th round, he complained about his back, and he backed out of the entire thing, so I won by default. And I hated everyone going around saying that I won just because he hurt his back. And I wanted to prove everyone wrong that I actually can beat him without him having an injury or anything. And so that next year, I called him for a rematch, and this time making sure that he's okay. And so we fought again, and 3 days before that match, I got a hernia, which I had to get emergency surgery for. And then, except I didn't want to back out of the fight again because I want to like push this and keep pushing it. And so I still did the fight, and I beat him in the 3rd round, knocking him out. And so now everybody knows that like I actually deserved it. And I got to travel a lot for boxing, and I went to like many different countries, like all different cultures and everything. And I was like, my mind was like open to different ideas, and I was always born and raised Catholic, except I went to this one place that like taught me about like the culture of Islam, like Islamic people and Muslims and everything. And I really loved their ideas because they like thought that black people should be like free and independent, and they like their idea was to live a healthy life and like not hurt people, like no killing, no like everything is just super peaceful. And I really liked that. So that next year I converted to Islam, and the year later, in 1974 I think, I got drafted for the war. Except for my religion, it's like super against that, like I can't do it, so I had to decline. And they were like really hard on me about that, like you have to do it, like you can't just say no, like you have to do it. And so they even offered me to just do benefit fights and like just go and help and support them, except I still said no, I wasn't going to do it, I don't want to be like involved with anything. And I got called a lot of things, like people did not like me because of that. And they thought that like I wasn't like a true American because I didn't want to fight for our country. And I got my heavyweight title taken away from me. And I also got suspended from fighting for like 2 years. And so that was like hard for me because I worked like my entire life to get this title, and it just like taken away from me. Except that in except 4 years later, I just kind of gave up on like the whole fighting thing. I understood that like I got my title taken away and everything. 4 years later, I tried to build up my fighting again, like try to get back into it. And I won a lot of fights, except I really want to get my title back. And so I had to fight the guy who had the title at the time, except I tried fighting him and I got like knocked out or whatever. And after that, I stopped fighting and I told everyone I retired because like I wanted to win, and if I can't win anymore, then what's the point? And so I retired, and now today I have got Parkinson's disease, and I use a lot of my time, and I travel around and I teach people about my culture, and I have a lot of charities, and I have a foundation where like kids can go and like practice boxing and stuff. And I try really hard to like use my money wisely and try to help people.